A murder has been arranged, a psychological thriller by Emlyn Williams, set on the stage of an empty theatre. That's our first production, and we're going to call our new society the Company of
Following
10.
the great success of our first play, I've chosen The Roof by John Goldsworthy, which, as you probably know, has a very large cast using all the actors.
I feel confident that your performance of Company Parade will do credit to the company.
I feel sure that your performance
Written by our own Cyril Swinson,
will be well ahead of
I feel confident that your performance of Company Parade will do credit to the company. I feel confident that we're going to call our new society.
Abbey Theatre, St Albans, built 1955, demolished 1968. Dressing rooms, stage, auditorium, foyer and bar.
The Company of 10 was founded in 1934, and some of the 10 are putting on plays still more than 30 years later.
Real Company of 10 history, that show.
Oh, hello, Terry.
Hello.
Do you mean to say that all these plays have been produced in this little theatre?
No. In various halls all over the town, until 1954, when Cyril Swinson bought Abbey Mill House and allowed us to build this little theatre in the ground.
That was before we started building, and we did it all ourselves. Even so, we could not accommodate a proper box office.
Yes. Yes, well, we have those. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you.
Pam Kell sat for many evenings in this minute box office, selling tickets for every show.
Full house is it tonight, John?
Yes, Jeremy, all 90 seats or so.
Oh, how marvellous. Thank you.
Only a minute bar, really. Not big enough for an audience at night. And while the show's on, the difficulty we have in keeping the noises down.
Especially the young ones. You'd think they'd only want to murmur to each other. They grow up so quickly.
The curtain will rise in 3 minutes.
This must be the smallest theatre kitchen in the world.
£6, please.
Right, there's a shilling.
Thank you. You're in the back row.
Having read their programme, ordered their coffee, 90 people wait for the lights to fade so that for one evening they can become a unique, exclusive, special audience.
Yes, Mr. Mason, you'd be surprised at just how efficient we really are.
Really? Please invite me. Honestly, I've never seen so many OB bags. The place is simply crawling with them.
It's fortunate then that you can't see how much stuff we have in the area, Mr. Allen. Hello, Red Sector, Trask here. Have you got...
Yes, this is fairly clear. I think you can see. Yes, there's two of them. Arguing, I think. By Jove, they're human.
No, not really. Look at their hands.
Well, they haven't actually got hands at all. You'll see better in a minute.
What peculiar faces. Like masks. No expression on them.
Like Japanese geisha girls.
Artistically strong, financially sound, friendly, cosy, successful. Too good to be true. In the summer of 1965, a letter arrived out of the blue from St Albans City Council, stating that since the area was required for building houses, we must remove our theatre and restore the land to its previous condition.
And so, in September 1965, a project committee was formed, charged with the task of bringing a brand new theatre into being.
This is where we stand. 240 seats so that we can play for 1 week instead of 2, to more people.
An open box office, priority booking to the theatre club. Maximum use of the theatre each year, not all shows by the company of 10. The architect, Tony Moyes, has the brief he needs. We want a fly tower and the club room. We are agreed it is not going to be a multi-purpose building. It is going to be a theatre, Abbey Theatre. It looks like costing £32,500.
Tony Moyes starts work on his detailed drawings and the long haul begins. Also, the difficult and strenuous task of fitting together the legal jigsaw. Alan Coates takes in his stride the formation of a limited company, registration as a charity, and preparation of a covenant scheme. While all this is going on, we choose a name for our new theatre, though the christening is a long way off. On the evening of the 22nd of April 1966, the appeal fund was launched at a public meeting in the town hall. The hall was full, people were standing at the back. The mayor came to lend his support. The 240 seats in the new theatre could be endowed and named for £50 each. Jack Wilson, our appeal secretary, introduced himself for the first time at this meeting, and cheques for the first seats were passed up to him before the meeting was closed. The pace steps up. The dream begins to take shape. And money begins to flow into the bank. People generally are becoming conscious of what is happening, the exciting project which is developing. Soon the drawings will be far enough advanced for that mysterious process to begin by which the architect's dream starts to become a bricks and mortar reality. At last the time arrives for the bill of quantities to be taken off.
Terry Newell and Robert Gibson shared this work between them, and Rob Kell designed the heating. It was soon apparent that if the theatre was going to get built at all by any amateur group, it would only do so on a foundation of massive goodwill. Alan and Terry, Rob and Robert gave their professional services without charge, and anyone who had any influence made sure we got the benefit of discounts on most materials. 7 builders tendered for the job. Their estimates ranged from £41,000 to £49,000. We accepted the lowest from Cockcroft and Priest and sought authority for the first portion.
Not many building contracts are signed in front of an audience, and not every chairman cheerfully makes a commitment for £25,000, the first phase, with only 1,000 or 2 in the bank. Have I your assurance that we shall raise this money by the time we need it? Yes! You leave me no alternative. Tony constructed a model which travelled hundreds of miles and was displayed to thousands of people. Auditorium, workshop, green room, wardrobe, dressing rooms, a large foyer, appeal literature, information, publicity, an explanation of our intent and an invitation to participate in cash. Surely together we can do at least as well as our Roman ancestors.
People help in the best way they can. Alan Richmond has drawn up and had printed 25,000 leaflets and hundreds of posters. And a small army of company of 10 members will distribute and display them. Half the army is boys. Conveniently, the other half is girls. It is essential to choose the best sites we can find. There was beginning to grow in certain suspicious minds the idea that Sharon and Jeremy are drawing closer together for reasons entirely unconnected with Abbey Theatre. They make a good team. They are very persuasive, and despite the location, the response is not cold. But they are growing to expect warm responses. And with their efforts and those of hundreds of others, we continue to make money. And maybe the ideas that were formulated in those suspicious minds are not unfounded. Soon Jeremy and Sharon will be saving their pennies.
May 1966, our pennies had accumulated to the surprising sum of £4,000. We're under contract for 25,000, so there's no time to waste. The race is on.
We learn how to sell bricks we don't want to lose to shoppers who don't want them and who aren't going to get them anyway.
But we make £124.
Will you buy a brick? Did you know we're building a new theatre in St Albans? Will you buy a brick to help us pay for it? Only 2 and 6pence. Come on now. Will you help us? Only 2 and 6pence. Thank you very much, my dear. That's just what we need. Thank you very much.
And by August 1966, our total is £9,300.
Jackie and Fred Svensson sold second-hand books to remarkable effect. We're still ahead of the builders. Everyone helps in the way that is best for him. Penny Hanford knits ties, Rosemary Harper made gollywogs, while Gordon Jarry searched the Charity Commissioner's files and sent out 500 letters, which brought in nearly £3,000. We sold jumble, held coffee mornings, and twisted the arms of our friends. Penny knitted more ties. She sold so many that she began to change the dressing habits of the male population.
January 1967, we have £17,400 in the bank. At first, all the builders seemed to do was to use our money to buy materials which they promptly buried in the ground. But our architect appeared to be well satisfied by this arrangement, so we went on thinking up new ways of making money.
There are some attractive old buildings in St Albans, and local artists have painted them to good effect. Because they wanted to help, many of them gave their works to an art exhibition in the town hall, organised by Mike Ford and Terry Pritchard. Sculptures and pottery were displayed as well, and the whole event was frankly an experiment in the town, which turned out to be a great success. At one time, there was a queue halfway round the room to buy pictures, and it makes us another £200. So well does everyone regard it, that we plan to make it an annual event in the foyer of the new theatre. We have always taken the view that the theatre would be a real arts centre, with regular programmes of recitals, exhibitions and musicals.
This and other events brought our appeal total to £20,000 by April 1967.
We have to sell the idea of the new theatre to every part of the community. Starting with agriculture at the Hart Show, Victor Goodhue MP for St Albans has bought the first seat for £50. This seems a good opportunity to try it out. The site we shall occupy has been watched over by the Abbey for centuries. It was not likely that we took its name as our own, but we're still some way from the christening. The Romans came some 1600 years earlier. And they built a theatre in the Round not far away. It is the only one that remains in England. What seemed new to us is really only part of an historic process.
Get their chance to show the flag. Understandably more concerned with the 20th century, students at St Albans College have given us a share of their ragtag. Very fairly, they have asked us to promote a float. This is the first and last time we hope to put Queen Bess and Hamlet on the same stage at the same time.
We now have enough money momentum to ask local councils to help, and bless them they do. nearly £20,000 in gifts or loans from county, city and rural districts, although it'll be some time before we receive it. The immediate effect is an interest-free loan from the city of £7,500, raising the total to £28,000 by June 1967.
While on a smaller scale, that very English way of raising money, where you clear a plot of grass, put up a marquee, hire tables and set out garden plants, lampshades, cakes, hats and white elephants, so that the public may come in and buy the produce and remove it. They're allowed to leave without further charge. Thanks to the strong team led by Molly Caldecott, it raises nearly £400.
3rd of June, 1967.
Our first real milestone.
We now have enough money in the bank to lay a foundation stone. And Sir Michael Redgrave is generously coming to lay it for us.
As chairman of the Company of 10, and on its behalf, I should like to welcome you here today on what must surely be the most memorable day in our history. Well, I suppose there's nobody here who doesn't know why they are here on this occasion. It is a great joy to me to see such a vast concourse of our members and supporters here today. I would like you now to listen to Talia Parsons and Brian Hughes reciting some of the landmarks that have brought the Company of 10 to this day.
In 1934, the Company of 10 was founded. Its first production was A Murder Has Been Arranged. In 1935, another society was born.
In 1938, the two societies decided to amalgamate.
During the war years, the company produced fortnightly play readings, and the audience who watched them became the core of our present supporters club. From 1953 to 1955, the company was in the wilderness while they converted the barn at Abbey Mill House into a pocket-sized theatre.
Abbey Mill Theatre was opened in 1955.
In 1965, circumstances demanded the termination of our tenancy at Abbey Mill.
The last production to be presented in Abbey Mill Theatre was Venus Observed by Christopher Fry.
And now, on June the 3rd, 1967, the company, the theatre club and their friends are assembled to witness the latest landmark in the company's 34 years of history, the laying of the foundation stone of the Abbey Theatre.
Mr. Chairman, Michael, ladies and gentlemen, the Romans had the same idea as the Greeks, that when they built a theatre, they invoked the various muses. They dedicated certain seats, and they put the names of those who should always sit in them. And I can only say how very much the city appreciates the efforts of you, sir, and your colleagues in...
My job is not to make a speech, but to ask God's blessing upon what is being done here. Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, bless and prosper, we beseech thee, all those who are engaged in this undertaking, and bring it to a fruitful end through Jesus Christ our Lord. Almighty and everlasting God, take into thy protection, we beseech thee, all those who are engaged in the building of this theatre. Guard them from accident and keep them in safety through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Dean, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very proud and very happy to be here today, very happy for my own sake and very proud because of you. So, if somebody will produce a gavel, I will gladly perform the ceremony for which I am here.
Receiving the more.
Did I hit it near the middle? Yes, sir. Both sides. declare this stone well and truly laid.
When the occasion is over, David Stone and some of his colleagues explained to Sir Michael Redgrave how the building will eventually look and how it will work. Much of the success of the enterprise is due to David's PR work, which got this day onto BBC television and ultimately into the columns of several national newspapers.
We are now topping £30,000 for the first time. We have achieved much. The building starts to look recognizable as a theatre. But there's still a long way to go before our enthusiastic band of actors can tread the boards. So, having laid our foundation stone, we can puff out our chests and take a well-earned rest.
"16th of July, 1967. Back to work, on foot, for 29 miles. Nearly 300 people signed on for the Great Walk at 8 o'clock at the Theatre Royal Windsor and set off to walk to Abbey Theatre, St Albans, a distance of nearly 30 miles. In a mass onslaught on new pockets, every walker carries a card signed by friends from far and wide, pledged to contribute to the fund a certain sum of money for every mile completed. From separate sixpences and shillings promised, many cards are worth £1 a mile, some a lot more. In total, we're sponsored for £100 per mile. So if everyone finishes, we could raise £3,000. So all we have to do to make money is to walk and walk and keep on walking. The oldest and the youngest walker. Every 5 miles there is a checkpoint. The first checkpoint at Ivor is controlled by Brenda Swinson. 5 miles, enough to get the circulation going. Here the progressively tired walkers get their cards signed, receive necessary first aid, and refreshments generously donated by Schweppes and Coca-Cola. Second checkpoint, Uxbridge Common, 10 miles. Spirits high, but need for a little more first aid. Tony Hiscox manned this checkpoint and provided cold drinks. Pasta Foods put 10 shillings per mile on Jeremy. All the walkers except 1 or 2 children arrive at the third checkpoint, 15 miles from the start, so we must have made £1,000 already. The third station is at Northwood Hills, run by Ray Caldecott. The day is getting warmer and the muscles are protesting louder. It's not officially a race back. There is now a mile or 2 between the leaders and the tail. Apart from the 300 people walking, there are a host of other helpers, those serving refreshments, those attending to sore feet, and those involved in the shuttle service of cars, picking up walkers who are just too tired to go on. Checkpoint 4, Bushy Arches, with Jill Collins in charge, 20 miles. Did someone say only another 9? The leaders were through in less than 5 hours from the start. Radlett begins to sound like home. This point run by Frida and Derek Rudd. It takes nearly 3 hours to check everyone through, and the numbers are down by almost half. The A5 never seemed so far from the theatre as this. Most of the early finishers were from the younger members, but Ron Binks, head of the project committee, finished running amongst the first half dozen. Journey's End, after 29 miles, with a marquee to welcome us, footpaths and the Caledonian Prize Band marching and playing in the sunshine. But as the last walker comes in, the count goes up to 167, and we've raised £2,200, the most successful endeavour so far, thanks to the organisers, Eric Ward, Terry Pritchard and Ron Goff. A colourful and to our most successful endeavour, even if some of us are too tired to care.
The music hall started as a summer show in a marquee by the old theatre, but from its great success it was soon obvious that it could be toured to raise much needed money for the building project. It played different halls, works canteens, colleges and pubs all over Hertfordshire. Nearly all were chaired by Len Eames. It was late only once when Flores, our pianist's car, broke down. Otherwise, it survived fog, snow, ice and floods, and raised over £1,000.
The churchyard is so small, there's no room there for them all. Oh, I don't mind the nice boy staring hard. If it satisfies their desire. Do you think my dress is a little bit? Just a little bit, not too much of it. Though it shows my shape just a little bit. That's a little bit the boys admire.
Very often the audience dressed up as much as the artists, and some of the halls looked like a send-off for the Boer War. Songs and choruses from the last century are presented by such great artists as Anne Stevenson, Keith Atkinson, Doreen Stewart, Beryl Volo, Babs Telfer, Alan and Eileen Coates, Pam Kell, Ken and Phil Martin, Bob Fitzsimmons, Margaret Gibson, Doreen Grieve, Peter Harris, Ray and Molly Caldecott. We played here twice a month for a spell.
And all I'm scratching what thinking dear of you.
We always ended with a good thumping finale, and everyone joined in.
Now you join in a rendering of the last number 5.
This is the front of the stage. That is the fly tower. which will make it easier for stage managers and their assistants to change scenes. This is the back of the auditorium. The control box will be here. The main beams that provide the steep rake for the seats. And back to the theatre entrance. This is the foyer and the main doors by the box office. The theatre building is nearly finished and equipment is going in. We're still helping ourselves. Having finished the drawings, Tony helps to make them come true. For like everyone connected with this ambitious project, he doesn't mind taking off his coat and getting down to some hard manual work.
Yay, oh yay! An autumn...
Eric, the film's director, brings in the 1967 bazaar. We abandoned the marquee this year for the town hall.
Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay! An autumn fair will be held.
It is bigger and more central. We hope to sell more of the same things, attract more people, and raise £700.
If the company of 10 is moving towards some sort of conclusion, so are others. Jeremy and Sharon will soon join the honoured list of marriages, where the company has acted as broker, and the list looks as if it may even be lengthened.
We're now having to pay some heavy bills. Money continues to come in. We have raised £35,000. Following an old tradition, builders celebrate having reached the very top of their structure by holding a topping out ceremony. In this case, by transporting a tree to the very top. So when our fly tower gets its last course of bricks, Foreman Aldridge and architect Tony provide us with another landmark.
The backstage mascot at Abbey Mill need guard our old switchboard no longer. Asked to tackle everything from shore to Strindberg, it sometimes got ideas beyond its station. Even so, this corner has been a second home for Roy Fielding and Don Whiteman. For 12 performances each show, 6 times a year, as well as rehearsals, they have crouched in their small corner, squinting at the stage as best they can, round corners of scenery and between people's legs, to pick up their cues to operate the board. They would find the job of removing it very sad if there were not something to take its place in the new theatre. Fortunately, there is.
Strand Electric 1968. Comprehensive batteries of floods and spots, an intercom system to all parts of the theatre with lighting and sound controls behind glass at the back of the theatre, all wired up by Roy and Don and their staff.
Surprising how we used to manage so well with the sound equipment at Abbey Mill.
But it will be surprising if we fail at Abbey Theatre with Richard Yeoman Clark manipulating the decibels. We've been lucky enough to find an expert whenever we wanted one to contribute their skill for fun. 90 seats at Abbey Mill. We painted them, put cushions on them. After 2 hours it was still difficult to concentrate. 244 at the new theatre, put in by George Lilburn and his team.
The Muse finally moved out of Abbey Mill and left its echo to John and Peggy Attiwell.
And since the new building will not be ready till March 1968, the first plays of the season have to be produced elsewhere. We call it a return to the wilderness, but the Hearts County Council think we should be grateful. Hill End Hospital was used too to present Arms and a Man, and how grateful we were to our audience for finding their way out and apparently finding their way home afterwards. The second show in the wilderness, in every way, is the birthday party. Painting, sticking and set building. All these have to be fitted in when no one else wants the hall.
By the end of 1967, the financial pattern is becoming clear. The final cost of Abbey Theatre, including all furniture and equipment, is going to come out at about £47,000. Towards this, making the best allowances we can for covenants, tax rebate and interest, we have raised £41,000, rather more than the original target. Our request to the Arts Council of Great Britain was for £5,000. It would almost close the gap.
Work at the new theatre is still on schedule. As our bills exceed our funds, we go into the red for the first time. We have made £500 from interest. Now, thanks to the bank, in the middle of a squeeze, we are permitted to borrow to finish the job. We still need another £10,000. As the builders come towards the end of the building proper, so we are able to step up the amount of self-help we can inject. Between us, we put up the main lines and pulleys at the top of the fly tower and miles of rope. From time to time, someone drops a hammer from on high, but luckily they always miss.
March 1968. The last item to be moved from the old theatre is the wardrobe.
Costumes accumulated over 30 years have been meticulously cared for by wardrobe mistress Pat Lockett. People help in any way they can. Jeremy and Sharon find the work tiring.
A call went out for volunteers. True to company tradition, there was a massive response.
Costumes from the old Abbey Mill to Abbey Theatre, from one play to another, into a new theatre which will live longer than they will.
The work is strenuous, but many hands make light work.
Jeremy and Sharon still find the work tiring.
Only a month to go now to the first production in the new theatre. It will be The Recruiting Officer, a restoration comedy with a large cast. It has been in production for 5 months. Many of these props and costumes will be needed in The Recruiting Officer, and those that are not will be carefully stored away. The scenery is being built and painted, and the stage is at last in use. The new house begins to become a home. This will probably be the last big communal effort prior to the opening.
A job well done. Everyone is tired, but satisfied.
Jeremy and Sharon are still working.
And so, after 12 years of memorable and faithful service, the old Abbey Mill Theatre is finally pulled down. Now that the time has come, we find we can face up to the end without too many tears, although for the few who are watching, it will ever be a nostalgic memory. But we have a new theatre, even if it isn't quite paid for. The nature of the problem now is changing, from how to build it to how to run it.
Now, as the courtship which has so faithfully mirrored the progress of our great project draws to its happy conclusion, our dreams and ambitions approach their own triumphant fulfillment.
And so, 2 years after the appeal meeting, on April the 17th, 1968, Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, is to grace our first night, which will make it the most unforgettable occasion in our history. despite the rain outside. Inside all is glitter and jubilation, success and pride.
The Lord Lieutenant introduces Her Majesty to the Mayor, Alderman Brett, who in turn introduces her to Terry Newell, the Chairman of the Company of 10. A proud moment. Molly Newell, the Chairman's wife, one of the original members of the Company of 10. Her Majesty is introduced to Ron Binks. He's put in a great deal of hard work as Chairman of the Project Committee. His wife, Pat, is beside him. And Mark Hanford, our Treasurer. And now Brenda Swinson, another original member of the Company of 10. Brenda is being reintroduced to Her Majesty. They previously met at the St. Albans pageant a few years ago. Victor Stanton is presented to Her Majesty, another member of the Project Committee and a stalwart anchorman for many years. Peggy and John Atterwell, the chairman of the theatre club. Charlotte Rogers, the producer's daughter, presents a bouquet to Her Majesty.
No complaints, no problems yet.
Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, very good.
Gentlemen, I thank thee. Come on, this captain, sit by me. And now produce your prisoners. Here, Mr. Constable, that man there, set him up. Yes, sir. And now, what have you to say against this man?
Oh, I've got nothing to say against him.
No, but what makes you bring him hither?
Now it is, please, your worship.
But did not the contents of your warrant explain to you what sort of men to take up?
I can't tell him, please, chief. I can't read.
Counsel for the Queen.
Ah, my good sergeant, you shall be heard, since nobody else will speak. We shan't come here for nothing.
This man is but one man. The country can spare him, and the army wants him. Besides, if he's cut out to be a grenadier, he's over 5 foot 10 inches tall.
During the interval, Her Majesty is going to be entertained in the club room. Her Majesty specially requested this champagne.
Thousand things I would say, but devil take me away.
During the last act, the bar staff, Jerry, Carol, Joan and Chris, are taking the opportunity of cleaning up the foyer before Her Majesty is presented to the cast after the play.
And raise recruits the matrimonial way.
The producer, Len Rogers. Her Majesty is specially asked to meet the cast. I shall probably just have time to tell you their names. Neil and Ted Swindlehurst. June Rendell. Margaret and Ron Mackay. Alan Richmond. Sue Westall. And of course, Sharon and Jeremy. Alan Coates. Cliff Austin. Barbara Telfer, Bob Summerling, Penny Hanford and Jeff Blissett. And now Her Majesty is going to unveil the commemoration stone. A permanent record of this historic evening.